HO Talk Show.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I to the Ism, H to the Izzo Talk Show. Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
That's right. And you know, tell a friend, because we back like we never left, Miss Max. In the booth. Max, you got a hot 16 to spit?
You know, I might have some.
All right, because we are here with none other than the good professor, Dr. A.D. Carson, aka A.D. the Great. Right, my man. Good to see you again.
Peace. Thank you. It's good to see y'all
Welcome
too.
to the show.
Yes, indeed, man. Always appreciate your conversation. Always appreciate following your work. It's definitely influential and encouraging. You know, being 80s babies ourselves. You know, growing up. You know, like within that hip hop cloth, it's definitely beautiful to see, like the transition, you know, like that we see so many of our greats make, right? Like we grew up with like engulfed in this culture, and now, you know, some people said it was a fad at first, but now we see how diversified it gets, right? How, you know, how things start maybe with the music, and now it's like it's everywhere. Hip hop is sort of ingrained in the it's modern society now. You know. So, you know, for those that don't know, your last music release which was for immediate release, the EP by A.D. Carson. Also the book Being Dope. A hip hop in theory through mixtape memoir. Right. And then also some folks probably saw that you were over there in what was it? It was the Dome Room.
Old Cabell.
Old Cabell. I'm sorry. Old Cabell Hall. On the mic, Miss Max, he was emceeing with the Charlottesville Symphony behind him. Like doing the thing. I mean, it's lovely, man. So man, like so sort of like take us through this journey. You know, as I said, those are sort of the three things, you know, that we saw. And we was like, man, we need to get AD back on. The brother out here, you know, putting in good work. Like, so, and we knew we could take it any direction you want. And, you know, we definitely want to talk about, of course, as we always do, sort of the current state of hip hop. But with those three things, with the album for immediate release, the EP, the Being Dope book, and that symphony, was there any kind of master plan behind this? Like, were you like, oh, this is my rollout, this is how I'm gonna do this?
Well, you know, that's a great question. I appreciate that because, you know, like, I mean, shout out to the Clips though, you know, like doing the classic album rollout. No, like I knew that I've known the book was coming for a while, and I wrote a book before I went to grad school, and I wrote two books before I went to grad school, and then I thought I'm not going to write no more books because the thing that I was doing in grad school was saying like rap music is doing the kind of like scholarly thing that I want to be doing. And then this opportunity arose with Oxford University Press, where I would have the creative control to write the kind of book that I wanted to. So in the book, there are lyrics, there are ruminations on any number of things, you know, like how Charlottesville in August, you know, like the Tiki Torch March compares to the Slim Shady entrance at the 2000 MTV Awards, you know, like that kind of thing. And so then I was working with this fellowship program that I'm with at UVA. And so we, you know, had some resources to be able to put together a studio and record the album. So I just wanted to make sure that the studio was blessed properly. And went in and started recording. And then I realized like, oh, I might be able to use for immediate release to preview the main arguments of the book. And so all 5 tracks feature some aspect that's in the book. And so there are excerpts of interviews, bouquets. There's an interview with me and Tavis Smiley talking about my dissertation, Rock Everybody. There's an interview with Gene Demby and the folks at Code Switch on NPR talking about rap washing. Grace, there's an interview with that I did with 60 Minutes Australia about Sean Combs's at that time it was the Charges.
Yeah.
And then Flight Risk has my conversation about digital blackface and AI with Gizmodo, and then Reposer has my conversation with I want to say it's Australia National Radio about rap battles. And so it's all new music, it's all new verses, but it's also the same way that I've sampled folks like Nikki Giovanni or James Baldwin or whoever's voice might appear in the music. I'm doing the same kind of thing. I'm just doing it with my voice so that I can put these interviews together so that folks who might know me from seeing one of those interviews or reading some stuff, but they don't know that I make music, it's trying to, like, you know, increase the space in the middle of the Venn diagram for folks who might know me in text and folks who might know me in music or folks who might know me, you know, like in other spaces. That's why it's called For Immediate Release. And so all three of the albums go together. That I believe that there is a space where like literally some of the lyrics that are on For Immediate Release were part of the performance with the symphony and are contained in the book. And so you will see how all of the how they all overlap if you engage with all of the media, but you don't have to engage with the others for one of them to make sense.
Got you. So I'm curious, what was the thought process behind like not making the album the same title as the book, like kind of making it the soundtrack?
Because I did that before and it didn't work.
Okay.
No. I wrote an album. I wrote this album. That was the first book was called Cold. And it was an album. And then I was like, I don't want to give this album away. You know, like you just putting music out and you feel like you're putting it out into a vacuum and like, no, folks are like, when is your next thing? And so I wrote this book called Cold. And, you know, it's like, what happens in between the stories? What's the background? If I were to make an allegory, you know, a song like, what's that song by Common? I Used to Love Her. So what's the version of I Used to Love Her for me as a kid growing up in Decatur, Illinois? Like, how would I embody that her? Like, what does that person look like? How do they talk? What did they teach me? You know, all of that. And even in this new book, I address that I think that if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't use that metaphor because I think that we understand now that there is something about there's something weird when we do this personification thing that might lead some people to believe, like, I mean, one of the ways that you think about I Used to Love Her and people like Erykah Badu have subverted it is Erykah Badu is like, I used to love her too. But you can also understand the ways that that comes across to people as subversion because you're using a gendered metaphor and it assumes that, you know, like that hip hop is a her, and there might be some people who are like, well, my relationship to it isn't like that, or, you know, like they turn it like hip hop to a hymn. And so, you know, like films like Brown Sugar and all of that, I'm just saying that we should deliberate a little bit about our metaphors. I'm not telling folks that they can't use the metaphor or that they should retire it. What I'm saying is that when I wrote that book and I was writing the person that was going to be the incarnation of hip hop, I accepted that metaphor without ever really questioning it. And that was what led to like the romantic interest in that book. And now I'm saying I don't want to, like, hip hop is not like a romance thing. It's actually something that's like deeply philosophical. It's about being, it's about community. And so it doesn't fit the same way anymore. But that book and that album were both called Cold. And what happened was when people started hearing that there was a book, then they would be like, oh, well, this you know, this album is more than a rap album. You know, it's also a book. And I'm like, no, it's just a regular rap album and it's just a regular book. And they go together.
Definitely. They definitely do. So one name you didn't mention, I think it's on the last track, Reposer. You got KRS-One.
KRS-One is on there too. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for because KRS-One, his, you know, like sage words are like, you know, you can't have a professor of hip hop unless they come through me. And there has to be a time where, or there will be a time where students need to start questioning these professors.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about people who, profess to be professors of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And so, someone might say, well, like, so who are you dissing? And I'm like, no, like I'm sending that call
I was gonna
out.
ask you that.
I'm sending that call out to me.
Yeah.
And, like, I imagine that there's some hit dogs that's going to holler, but I'm talking to me.
Yeah.
Like that's really, and I think it's very evident.
So you're paying homage to KRS in the sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm saying that, like, like I don't have a problem. Me and KRS-One can have that conversation about what I'm doing in the classroom and what it looks like and what the goals are. I agree with him. I agree that someone coming through a place like UVA should be questioned by the culture. That I open that. So I want more people. Bring me on your show and sit me down and give me the toughest questions that you got about why we shouldn't have hip hop at our universities. And I think I got some responses.
So if you had to run down like a bullet point list of what authenticates a hip hop professor, what would that be?
Well, so I don't know if anything authenticates a hip hop professor. Because like authenticity is so fraught. But what I would say is that we definitely have to ask questions about, like, what do you think you're doing in front of the class? Like, so do you think that you are, like, giving voice to the voiceless, or that you are, like, trying to center the marginalized? Because, there's some violence in that as well. Because as a hip hop artist and somebody who came up in a hip hop community, it was never that I was voiceless. That was never the reason that things, were bad in the community, or in the shadow of the university. It was because the people who had the mics wouldn't pass them. So I wasn't voiceless. Give me a microphone and you would hear me amplified just like you hear these other people who are talking. So it's not my job in Charlottesville to say I'm going to speak for Charlottesville communities that don't get spoken for. No, if I have a microphone, if I have a megaphone, and there's some amplification that needs to happen, and I know that needs to happen, then what the hip hop thing for me to do is to try to facilitate the resources into the place where the resources are needed. So, like, that doesn't require me being on the mic. That doesn't require me speaking. There ain't no voiceless out here. There are people who are hogging microphones. I think that's what's going on. Yeah. So the authenticity is like, how are you in community with people? How do you live with people? How do you see the work that you're doing? I don't presuppose that somebody needs a PhD to understand lyrics or to understand music or to understand writing or to understand performance. I went and got those things because I was curious, and that was a pathway for the professional thing.
So I'm gonna ask a wild question. Is that to say that anyone can do it? White dude from the suburbs that can relate to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, if I was a white dude from the suburbs, that's a wild way to start a sentence. But if I was a white dude from the suburbs who related in all of those ways, right. I mean, I think that I would have to, because that person is embodied differently than me, then they're going to have to ask themselves different questions. So I can't tell a person, well, like, we the same. No, we don't come from the same place. We don't do the same things. You wasn't in them ciphers that I was in back home. You wasn't in those studios that I was in back then. Your experience is different. So if you are, but if it was a white dude from my hometown who did all of the same things that I did, the questions are still different because your experience in the world is different than my experience. But I know from my experience, there's not a person that's going to walk up to me and tell me, like, you got to bow at the altar of hip hop because you ain't, you ain't done enough or you ain't real enough. And also, come on, get out of here with that. So
I heard you I heard you draw the parallel earlier of the marching with tiki torches to Eminem, marching down the VMA aisles. Yeah. Like, so is that to say that that his status as an MC is lessened because of his whiteness, or like what's the parallel?
No. It's nothing. No, I think that, like, he's elevated. I think that if anything, his status as an MC and his status as a popular cultural icon is actually is much greater because of his whiteness. I think that whiteness is what. Now, this is not to say that Eminem is not a talented rapper, not a gifted lyricist, not, like, a great performer, because all of those things are true. But there are a number of talented lyricists, great performers, you know, like people who like are head and shoulders as good, or at least, you know, like better than a whole lot of people and as good as Eminem. I mean, even rappers that he rapped with, you know, someone like Royce the 5'9", who I think, you know, very kindly sometimes says, I am not as good as Marshall, or, you know, like he's the GOAT. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that I would temper my response, you know, like,
I mean, I'm a Royce fan.
Yeah. So as to not cut off the, you know, like the flow of goodwill as well. But Eminem's, like Eminem's like race, or what we perceive as race, gender, what we perceive as gender, his willingness to, I mean, I'm saying that the, you know, like sort of the brief take is that NWA was a group where race absolutely mattered. And you saw that in the way that they were covered. You saw that in like sort of the way that people even remember, like the N meant something, right? Well, like, with Dr. Dre's tutelage, Eminem is able to make race matter in an entirely different way. And so he's not a guy who is like, who is putting on an affected black, you know, quote unquote, black voice to rap. He's actually mocking whiteness in his performance of his voice in his music. And when you hear that, then some people are like, oh, this sounds like us. This sounds like me. This sounds like, and then there are other people who are like, oh, he's making fun of white folks. He's making fun of them. And so some people found identification. Other people found it as parody. And all of that is just like the perfect storm for the kind of stardom that he had. And so that's the thing that I'm talking about. And so the thing about the alt-right, you know, in roughly 2017, 2016, is that I thought as Eminem was doing all that he did from the beginning of his career up until that moment, I thought rhetorically Eminem has very few moves to make, because I can imagine that a whole lot of those people who love Donald Trump, who love the alt-right, who love to make jokes, you know, like baby in the microwave jokes and you know, sexual assault jokes, and everybody just needs to get over themselves, you know, like the racial, you know, racist stuff. I can imagine a lot of those people are Eminem fans. And because I imagine a lot of them are Eminem fans, then they're assuming that they were already sanctioning, or they were already sanctioned by the music that he made previously. He's already said all of the unsayable stuff. And so as the political discourse starts to shift to being like, almost everybody online is like Junior Eminem. Everybody's like doing what he does rhetorically. And now a person running for president is doing that rhetorically. What is Eminem going to do? And what he did, he came out and he dissed Donald Trump in the BET Cypher. Well, when he dissed Donald Trump in the BET Cypher, what do you think his fans did? His fans, they responded the way that I assumed that they would respond. And they were pissed. They were livid. They were like, oh, I thought like, or Eminem went woke. Eminem sales declined a little bit, but you know, it's Eminem. So sales declined a little bit. Just it don't mean the same thing as it means for other people. But you know, but then he turns around. There's a song on I want to say that Kamikaze album. I know the song is called The Ringer, where he literally apologizes to the Donald Trump supporting fans that he dissed in that BET Cypher, because, well, I can't say why he apologized. I'm saying that he did apologize though. And so when I'm making my connection between what happened here in 2017 and what happened in 2000, is to say that like the zeitgeist, the public conversation, Eminem was leading a public conversation. That public conversation caught up with him in 2017, and he attempted to like, I mean, I don't want to be uncharitable and say that he tried to hide his hand. I don't think that he pretended that he didn't say the stuff he did. He went out and said, "Hey, that ain't got nothing to do with me." You know, and maybe a
business decision.
And so then you saw a series of business decisions after that. And so it's not, you know, it's not surprising to me that Eminem is, you know, taking a knee on the NFL Super Bowl stage whenever they do the hip hop halftime show. Right? Like all of those things make sense. And someone might say it's like flip flip-flopping. But I just imagine as a business person, you're like, how do I keep my sort of authentic relationship to what I do and make fans feel like I still represent them? And the way that folks identified with Eminem was, I mean, it was like no other, literally like no other.
So thank you for that point, because I feel like the last point I wanted to make on that on the album definitely alludes to that, which is like listening to this for immediate release EP. Like it definitely felt like premeditated, targeted like shots. And like I don't want to assume.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I don't want to assume like that you would call anybody in particular out.
Whatever
like,
question I was asking.
All right. You know, like because I believe the first track, Bouquets, like at the end when you have the dialogue, you were actually talking about the Super Bowl and stuff.
Yeah.
And that made me think about, and I believe it's like the next track, like these are talking about like people who call themselves like the god of rap, and I'm like, okay, kind of sounds like that's like a Hove kind of reference. Yeah. And then when I hear you talking about like who calls themselves doctors and stuff, I remember last year people were talking like some people were calling Lupe Fiasco the first, and I remember there being counter articles saying, nah, Professor Carson did it before Lupe. You know, so as I'm listening to this album, like are they really that direct and targeted? Like am I in the right lane, or were what you saying more generalized for the culture?
No. Like I can imagine that anybody, you know, like 2 + 2 definitely equals 4.
Right.
And so when I say I ain't heard from who you all call Hova, I'm not. Yeah, there's nothing to interpret there. But what I am saying, you know, like what. Like, so my question on the album is, would you believe in a God who don't believe in you?
Right.
And if who you calls God don't believe in you, don't show up whenever, you know, like, and does do the omniscient, omnipresent, all powerful, whatever, then you kind of have to question, like I'm saying, I'm atheist on that point then, is what it seems like to me. I'm not going to call another dude Hove. That's not a thing that I'm going to do, even in the sort of like, this is a rap moniker.
Yeah.
And so when I say, you should call me doctor because I really am a doctor, that's not a shot at anybody. Anybody can become a doctor.
Yeah.
Go do it before you claim it.
Right.
And if you didn't do it, then don't claim it. It's fine to not be. That's not a requirement. So the same thing with the thing. Like I spoke to Lupe Fiasco, like literally spoke on the phone with Lupe Fiasco at some point after I finished my PhD. And so I can't imagine Lupe doesn't know that I have a PhD and that I'm a professor of hip hop where I am. I'm not saying that he follows me or that like he's hip to whatever has been going on, but I don't think that that's a thing about, like, that's not between me and Lupe. That's whoever is writing about Lupe.
Article,
and saying that, like, and attributing these things to him. Of course, as a person, you might want someone to say, like, no, I mean, when somebody says to me, you're the first, you know, blah, 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 I'm like, first is kind of, I mean, that's a strange thing, because there are people who taught hip hop at UVA even before I was teaching hip hop at UVA. Now, the title, that's, you know, a different thing, because like there haven't always been titles like Professor of Hip Hop.
Right.
But I'm like, whenever I've written about this, I say it's misleading. Let's not mislead people, because it only leads to more confusion.
Yeah.
Because I believe that it's entirely possible for me to do my job and Lupe to do what he does wherever he's doing it, and for Jay-Z to do what he's doing wherever he's at, and for Mia X to do what she's doing where she's at. There's plenty of, like, nobody in an English department is saying, I was the first English professor, or ain't no other English professors before me.
It's almost only a competition.
And so I get that. Yeah, so like it's sharp and it's pointed, but that's because I don't have the benefit of celebrity like some folks do. Right. Like I don't have no corporation pushing me or any of that. I have a job. I mean, I go to my job regularly and do my job, and my job is to write raps and release raps and teach people how to rap.
Yeah.
And that's different. So when someone says, are you doing something just like that rapper or that person or that person? The answer is quite literally no, I'm not. And they not doing what I do.
Right. Yeah, because I also think about, you got Ninth Wonder doing what he does, and then you got Skills down there at U of R.
Yeah.
So folks have different realms.
And I hope to bring spaces. Skills. Actually, I spoke to him a couple of times, but because I've been invited over to Richmond. So I would love to talk to any of these people about their philosophies and about what they're doing. I think that it makes it seem as if there's a competition. And so what I want to say, like when I put the album out, like when I say, I ain't saying it's my bouquet. Like I'm not telling somebody, like, don't give me somebody else's flowers. I'm like, but I do want the flowers. Like, if there are flowers that were for me,
for you, yeah.
If there were flowers for me, yeah, like then I want them. Yeah. But like, nobody's entitled to flowers, right? I feel you. Yeah, so like you don't deserve an honorific just because. But like but if I earned a title. Yeah. Like if I went through the process to do that, like I didn't do all of that studying for you to say, like for you to put my title or to be like, quote unquote doctor. No, it's not alleged. Right. That's real. Yeah. And it's not like the P is the same size as the P on anybody else's, and the H is the same size, and the D is the same size. I'm sure if you put them on the scale, they weigh the same thing. Yeah. But I got that for rapping.
Facts.
Yeah, and so like, just let us never get that confused. That when I wrote that album achieved something that, as far as I know, no other rap album achieved.
Yep.
It made me a doctor.
Yep, good stuff. So, family, we are talking to none other than Dr. A.D. Carson about what he has going on right now, which includes he's fresh off of the performance with the Charlottesville Symphony, as well as he has a new book out, Being Dope, Hip Hop in Theory Through Mixtape Memoir, and his most recent musical release for immediate release, the EP, right? And so, what I wanted to talk about too is like the business, the business of hip hop, like as it affects our culture as well, and how it represents. Because starting off, like, we didn't own this thing, like we owned it culturally because it came from us, but you were looked at as a sellout and you gone pop, right? If you made money off of it. Now we're way past that, and hip hop is everywhere. Everybody wants to hire somebody from hip hop culture to be their clothing designer for their brands. They want you writing their commercials and their jingles. They want, like just your representation to sell any and everything. Yeah. And it's more accepted now. Right. So then you have sort of those dichotomies, if you will, of like, sometimes folks will make those business decisions. Yeah. And they'll be like, oh, but it's just business. So that's the first question to you is like, are we at a point still to where we can say it's just entertainment or it's just business? Because like when you reference Super Bowl, for instance, right? It's like some people would say, well, the NFL may be good now because Jay-Z is in charge of getting the talent. Yeah. And he has hip hop talent out there. And like people respect people like Kendrick as like one of the best now and maybe ever. Dre is a legend, right? So when we look at it from that standpoint, is that like, can that be authentic? Can hip hop be profitable and authentic at the same time? I guess is the bottom line of my question.
I imagine that, like, some people will answer that question like very plainly no, but I think that it's probably more, nuanced than that. And what I mean is that, like, I mean, I think that it is possible, but it's the you want it all of the ways, and you can't have it all of the ways. Sometimes it's one way or another, or it's, one of 3 ways or one of 4 ways, but it can't be all of the ways. Right. And so there is something like when people are giving you money, they're expecting something in return for that money. Right. Like that's an exchange. So what the way that I describe it in the book, which is available for pre-order right now, is rap washing. Like the thing that happened at the Super Bowl was just a case of rap washing, where people use the affiliation with hip hop so that they can make people believe that they've made changes or done some good for community, or that they're engaged or cool, and then they don't make the change. And so the only thing you get out of it is a concert. You get some nostalgia and some clips online that might go viral.
And do you think the Black community is simple enough to believe that?
No, I don't believe that a Black community is simple enough to believe that, But I believe that capitalism is so deeply ingrained in our like day-to-day living that sometimes it's not believing it so much as
like maybe forgiving.
Like, well, right? What I'm saying is I totally understand if I see a rapper, if I see my favorite rapper, I don't know, like doing a weird commercial. Like part of me is like, oh man, that check must have been real good. Right. That's not forgiving. That's just like, I understand, like he made a business decision and you know, like that. And that's going to be a thing for that person. That doesn't make me uncritical. What has happened though, is that a whole lot of things that are, you know, like folks who are like literally selling out their friends or selling out neighborhoods or, you know, like engaged in these, you know, like the displacement of neighborhoods, literal gentrifying, literal gentrifiers are now being regaled as moguls or as smart business people. And there was a point in time where that was anti hip hop. That was the worst thing you could do is sell out like that. And so the naked embrace of capitalism as the arbiter of what is culturally relevant or what is culturally prudent, that is a change. And I think that is bad, because then you have a 50-year hip hop celebration or whatever celebration. Most of the time when people are celebrating hip hop publicly, or denigrating hip hop publicly, they're celebrating or denigrating what capitalism has done with hip hop more than they are the culture. And so there are so many very ordinary things that go on with hip hop that never, because somebody hasn't been able to make money off of it yet, because you can't, because there's no way to monetize, you know, like a local rap battle, or there's no way to monetize sending MP3s to my siblings. I mean, there are ways to do it, but it would take a whole lot more to do that. There's not as much to gain from that. So you just ignore it and pretend that it doesn't go on. And then when someone says, in my hip hop community, we cypher every Friday and we get together and we put together backpacks for the kids and all of that. Right, and then somebody's like, well, that's not hip hop. That's something else. That's community engagement or whatever. Since when were those different things?
You know, something else that comes to mind for me, at least, is we all are familiar with the Cowboy Carter album and the whole debate about whether or not it was country music or not. And Beyonce not winning awards for it and stuff, and so on and so forth. But that leads me to think about country music and those artists who are like borderline rapping in their music. And so I wanted to get your feedback on that, as far as it being the whole whitewashing or whatever term it is that you use, and what type, whether it be a capitalistic move, whether it be appropriation, whether there doesn't seem to be a debate as to whether or not that's considered country. For them, that is still considered country, even though clearly you hear the
elements of hip hop.
Right.
Yeah. So like rap washing is definitely, it is a kind of appropriation or scapegoating. Like it's so like, are you mean like something like honky tonk badonkadunk? Like, or I
mean, that's an example to me.
Well, because that song is actually just like a mishmash of everything that has been popular at some point within the past 50 years, and they just put it all in one song. And then what they did is they shot a rap video with a whole bunch of white people. Okay. That's what they did. And so just look at that video, it's like, hold on. What they literally took the formula of any rap video from the late 1990s or early 2000s, and it's just a whole bunch of it's like a line, like they're in a club, and it's like it's fascinating because that is like they're just taking the formula and like really appropriating it and moving it into a different context. And so but that's the history of pop music in this country. So country ain't never been, I mean, like country that ain't white folks music. it might be the domain where a whole lot of white folks make a whole lot of money and, express whatever it is that they're expressing. And so they feel like it's their culture. And this is the reason that they want to exclude someone like Beyonce. But again, that's the business of country music rather than, like the country music my grandparents was listening to. And so that like as a kid watching Hee Haw,
okay,
it never crossed my mind that wasn't like what my grandma and her folks were entertained by. Now, there are a lot of other people who have different relationships to that, but like it wasn't not a Black thing because the people who were on screen were white folks. But that's, I think, because folks like you hear, like if you hear a thing, I mean, if we think about it like inheritances, if hip hop is an inheritance and the executors of the will say it don't belong to Black people, it seems that folks are like, yeah, okay, like we're, or we just wait 20 years and then we'll get there. And so like, but if we ask that question about country, I mean, I feel like that check probably needs to be divided in several ways.
Yeah. And really, it is a race issue at the end of the day. Because think about Taylor Swift. I remember listening to Taylor Swift years ago, and they called it country. I'm like, this sounds like just pop music. There's nothing country about Taylor Swift, really. Right. But when Beyonce do it, all of a sudden that ain't country. Don't call it country.
But I think it benefits everybody for us to like make the conversation like to conflate the business with the culture. Because when we make the business the culture and the culture the business, then people can claim authenticity or claim their right to participate. And again, there's absolutely nothing that tells me a person who is not Black should not or cannot participate in Black music. And it would be absurd because all of the Black music that has become popular in this country has become popular through white folks co-opting it and then representing it to audiences. Yeah. So no, like not only can they, that's the whole history they have. So you can't do that and then also be like, yeah, but now you have to like be okay with that. You have to condone it or say that that it wasn't bad or it wasn't deleterious to the culture or it wasn't like it didn't harm people. Like they want the benefit and they want to be exonerated. Like they want to be able to get the loot from the crime and they want to be found innocent of the crime.
Yeah, the rhythm without the blues.
Yeah,
right?
And that's strange because it's like, no, the crime was committed and you got away with it. Nobody charged you with anything, but you still want to maintain what no crime nowhere. So in essence, it's a crime. You're like, yeah, no, racism is bad. And it's like, so it wasn't bad whenever folks decided that they believed the Black folks shouldn't sing these songs or can't perform these songs or can't sit in the audience for the performances. And they're like, well, I personally never. Oh, but isn't this the building where that happened? Because if this is still the building, like, what are we pretending about?
So Professor Carson, I appreciate that, man. And let me get your take on something else too. So here recently, within the city, there was a sort of like a call out of local MCs and artists. Yeah. And so like a lot of folks, the majority of the local rappers started responding with like diss tracks at each other. Like pretty much was getting challenged. Like you know how the vibrato is. And overall, I think people took it as a good thing because it was young Black men, right, that were like having friendly competition for the most part. And it was something constructive. Even if it wasn't that friendly all the time, it was still constructive. Yeah. So people appreciated that and everybody kind of bought into it and was, liking and sharing each other's stuff and whatnot. Now, as most rap battles can get, it did start getting a little personal in some phases. Yeah. But then you saw guys piping in like, look, I'm here for the rapping. I ain't here and digging up all that dirt stuff. So I'm gonna tap out, right? Yeah. So again, overall, it was something to where the hip hop culture was used to battle as an alternative to maybe like dealing with each other in a more negative aspect. So I just wanted kind of your take on that, on like just your point of view on the benefits, maybe the pros and cons of us using things, because of course it makes you think about how, like breakdancing, right? Breakdance kind of started as something, where rival gangs would go against each other. And so for that to happen in Charlottesville, in 2025 for young men, I just want your take on the power of that.
Yeah. So I think that it's dope. And it proves that hip hop is alive and well at local levels. And, the difference between something like that happening in Charlottesville and what say what happened with Drake and Kendrick is that when the Drake and Kendrick thing happened, you have like Spotify putting up the billboard, like refereeing. And here, like within a community, it's like, one of the things that I love anytime I go to a place, especially like when I first moved here, I go to the barbershop and I just, I want to hear the conversation. And I have been to enough barbershops to know that, like that sharp comment that just got made to me, about my sports team or about my taste in rap music. That person isn't being mean to me. That person is welcoming me literally by giving me a hard time rhetorically. Gotcha. And so there's a way that, and I remember with a musician once, I was doing it. We were rehearsing for a show and I ordered, like some highfalutin coffee.
Oh, something bougie.
It was mad bougie. Yeah. And so then like one of the keyboard players started making, he just kept saying the name of my order over and over again. And I was like,
made you feel some kind of way?
Well, no, I was like, no, this like, it's weird.
Like a rite of passage.
Like, it's weird because like, we ordering these, foofy coffee drinks when I could have probably just got drip coffee and like been cool with it. But I did have my order ready. So But that didn't exclude me from the group. That didn't mean that me and that dude were going to fight. That's a thing that I remember fondly. That is somebody who I'm still in contact with now and have worked with regularly since then. And I can remind him about that because because he felt welcome to do it. And the response was like a community.
Yeah.
And so I think that when things happen locally like that, in places like barbershops or in places like ciphers or in places where people know the spirit, they know the intent of the back and forth. I think that is an essential component of a hip hop community, is that folks can abide by whatever the norms are or abide by whatever the conventions are, so that it is all about raps and not about, fighting or not about shooting or not about violence, because there is this long tradition that we're in, and we can be observant of that tradition, which is why I'm always insistent when people talk about all of the bad things that they believe that hip hop has done. I have so many examples like the one that I just gave of local responses by, one of the ways that I met most of the hip hop artists, or many of the hip hop artists that I know in Charlottesville, was out resisting what was going on in August 2017. I'm saying literally did not know folks was rappers, did not know folks made music, did not know they were artists, but they were folks that were out there when I'm like, so for me, it's it makes sense that your hip hop artists are showing up for your local community or are engaging in community and refereeing, when things get a little too sharp or get a little too heated. That's absolutely a thing that has been modeled for a long time and can continue to be modeled. I think that the thing that happens, like say with what folks call like clout chasing on social media, where folks go into people's neighborhoods and recording and all those things, I don't think that those are meant to be local. I think that they're meant to respond to what like a locale or what a location means. And so I think that that's vastly different. Now, what I'm saying there is that social media can be used for a really terrible, awful, violent thing that is associated with hip hop. But as the case that you just, like here in Charlottesville, there are ways that hip hop can be used on social media for something that is exemplary of what a community can do with art with one another. Right. And so I don't think that it's ever been one or the other. But here's the thing. When the terrible thing had, like, if it bleeds, it leads. I would love, it would be great if the local media, if somebody, for one of the local magazines wrote about it, like did an archive, was like, here's what the back and forth, because who's going to have an archive of that art to present the really dope thing that went on, but that really dope thing doesn't have a hook like somebody getting shot. It doesn't have a hook like somebody getting arrested. The hook is that a community rapped with one another.
Yeah.
And that should be like, that's a feel good story.
Absolutely.
Everybody should be like, this is the dopest thing that could happen. Like, local rappers decided that they were going to test out their skills as MCs.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that's unfortunate to me, that because that kind of thing is not going to get as much engagement, as much like social media traffic, because it hasn't gone into those really violent, awful places, then people will forget about it. And then, people will do what's incentivized.
Yeah. Love it, man. We are talking to Dr. A.D. Carson and Max, like sort of the thing I have to close, if it's cool, is just kind of like what's next, where we go from here, because I appreciate your like strategy. Like as I look at your body of work, it feels like that, like you thought of, like you probably knew about your current projects probably years ago. And so I can appreciate that. But but the book that you have out right now called Being Dope. Yeah. And I can't help but to think, if you knew of the Clips making a comeback this year, like when that title kind of was finalized, because it's like, because like hip hop, as I said in the beginning, we as a culture and as a people and as a community, like it has evolved, it has grown, like past to where if you 40 and you rapping, you corny, right? Yeah. Now it's like we realize that every music genre wants to get to the point to where you have classics, and you want to see that artist from 30 years ago still performing if he can, or she can, and so I think we're at that phase now, and this album Being Dope, and like even with the local group, Virginia's own The Clips coming back, and it being such a hit, like such a smash, and it makes me wonder though, is it just because we missed that and it gave us a sense of nostalgia? Or is it really that good? Because I personally feel like that it's really that good. But I kind of want to wrap that up into your closing comments of like when we look at guys that are 50 and in their 40s making arguably the best rap album of the year. Yeah, well, where are we going from here?
So here's the thing. Like if you do anything, you practice something, you get good at it, then like a person's rap skill is going to get better. You get better as a rapper by practicing rap. And the more time you have to do it, one would think you just get better doing it. It's not like a sport where, I guess you can argue about like lung capacity. But so the book called Being Dope is because I believe that, and this is really kind of about capitalism, it's about America, that that the United States, it's a strange place because I believe that it treats blackness like a drug, and black people, black bodies like that are alive, and black bodies that are that have no life in them anymore. And so it's a country that like uses blackness like a drug, but it also wants the world to believe that it is both a trap house and a pharmacy. That like it can give you the dangerous thing if you want it, like out the side or the back door, but like it could write you a prescription for the same thing and give it to you over the counter. Like it can make a musical form like hip hop or like rap into something that it says is a sign of progress for the country. Even if it is also like arresting people for it outside. Right. So I wrote that, and so like the drug metaphors in this country abound. I think that one of the reasons that they're so appealing is because who in this country is untouched by this country's actual literal obsession with drugs? Yeah. Right. So like the metaphor works because it corresponds to a reality. So then when you hear Clips rapping about that, and I would say that the album also, deals with their familial struggles. It deals with aging. And they're still good at rapping, and the music sounds good. So you have all of these things. Well, of course, there are people who are aging alongside their favorite artists, and other people who never heard them before and they're like, oh, this is what it could sound like.
Yeah.
This is what, I mean, it's kind of like and yes, like there's been a lot of retrofuturism where things, like are supposed to be futuristic but look like the past. Mm-hmm. But that's because we borrow from the past for the future all the time. Mm-hmm. And so you could imagine that like Neptunes were kind of doing that a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And so we're at a point where time catches up with a group like the Clips in the same way that I said with Eminem. Yeah. And we're like, okay, like this is the sweet spot. Like this is not a thing where they have to revise. Their business decision is let's do the exact thing that we were doing. Mm-hmm. And let's not pretend that we aren't religious or that we aren't parents or that we aren't children or that we aren't. I mean, no, we're going to lean into all of that. Yeah, yeah. And you get that and you're like, wow, this is a great album. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that this country, that's about America. It's not about hip hop and hip hop's fascination with drugs. Mm-hmm. This country runs on drugs. Yeah, it does. Like sanctioned and unsanctioned, licit and illicit. And as Malcolm X said, it's a government seal whenever you open that bottle. Mm-hmm. Like that was one of those things, about sanctioning and unsanctioning or not sanctioning that. Led to a whole lot of organized crime and everything in this country. So that's the thing that I'm trying to track. That's the reason that I use the graphic that looks like the Dare T-shirt, because we're all familiar with that. But like our familiarity, that's not local to any particular community. That touches everybody. That has touched everybody and will continue to touch everybody because. I think that like the logic that we abide by is like the logic of the pharmacy. Is what I was saying is that it wants you to believe it's a pharmacy and a trap house. Yeah.
Loving it, man.
I actually did
Thank
have
you.
a question, but I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around what you just now said. And so when you talk about the rappers of the hip hop artists of older generations and their audiences, I can't help to think about the younger generation and the gap between the older hip hop artists, these new era hip hop artists, this drug of choice that runs America, as you say, and all those different. I don't know that I can put those things together to make it make sense. I don't know if you can hear where I'm going with it, but I guess I'm considering what impact, whether these artists last.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying?
I get it.
Help me
yeah. So, and there's a thing that I write in the book about, how, so it's like kind of an Eminem story, but not really an Eminem story where, when he got sober and went on Saturday Night Live also ran a skit, and that skit was, I want to say, Chance the Rapper with Pete Davidson and Kenan Thompson, and it's all about how young rappers and old rappers don't get along, like the gap in communication, and the way that they resolved it, like very problematically, but I think they thought it was funny, was they all like to do crack, so like they just end up getting high together, right? And I thought, wow, because this is Eminem sobriety, like sober Eminem coming on the show. And I think that Lil Peep had just died. The rapper, had died from an overdose. And so with this gap in understanding to be like, yeah, well, they'll just all smoke crack. I mean, not only is it insensitive and racist and all of the other things, it's a missed opportunity. A missed opportunity given the people who are on the show. And so I think that it is absolutely important for us to listen to young people. Yeah. I mean, like, listen to them, not chastise, not castigate, not, correct. Right. Listen. Right. And especially listen to the music, because when we were making music and people were condemning the music that we made, it made us understand that those people weren't listening. How can we not learn that lesson? Okay. Now, here's the thing. people did listen, and that's how hip hop became the global thing that it is now. Yeah. So they have access to wider audiences, which means they could bypass you, they could bypass me, they could bypass you and get to somebody else and still make a whole lot of money. And so this is where community means something. So even if they aren't talking to us, we might have to like put that record on and be like, okay, well, what are they talking about? And then ask them questions about it, like serious concern. So the concern is not, why did you make that song? The concern is like, I hear this in your music. Am I getting that wrong? Right. And then we might be able to open up. So I think that, you know, we should create more opportunities for young artists to have older artists as an audience, and folks really converse. Because I think a lot of people say the young folks won't listen to the older people, but I think that like the older folks are the ones who have the responsibility to listen. You know better, supposedly. So I think that, you know, like that cross-cultural conversation, intercultural conversation, it really is important. But if you believe that the issue, the most pressing issue is that young folks don't respect their elders, but you don't have no respect for no young folks, then I think that there's a gap in your understanding there. So yeah, and I think that that's the same thing with activism. It's the same thing with politics, that there are older politicians who are like just trying to hold on to power and saying that the young people are too radical, or they don't know how to listen, they don't know how to communicate. And at some point you have to say to that person, hey, you know what? This young person is running this race and they're getting votes. You probably want to listen to them. Because you are going to be their constituent. Right. I mean, we're inheriting the world where these are going to be the artists.
Yeah. You know, one thing you made me think of too is even part of the evolution of hip hop too is back when people used to say that the gospel rap was corny.
Yeah,
and like maybe we can credit Lecrae.
It might be a little bit corny.
Like, but what I was going to say was maybe we can credit Lecrae, because I do feel like now Lecrae has ushered in a generation to where it's like he's sort of acceptable. He's sort of like palpable. You know what I mean? And people are like, oh yeah, Lecrae is dope. You know what I mean? And he has
history.
A whole label of artists.
But there's a long history with like hip hop and religion, you know, and so, you know, there's that who is that, Melly Mel with, is it like the Clark sisters or something? They got a song called like Computers Make the World Go Round or something. It's like 1984. Sure. Okay. Anyway, somebody go and correct it online if I got it wrong. But yeah, I think Melly Mel and it was a gospel song though, with and Melly Mel is one of the biggest rappers at that time. Yeah. So there's always been a relationship, but I take the point that it was probably like a marketing, and I mean, there's just different, the social space is different. So in anything that there might be an influencer who will become popular influencing online, there's probably music to match it. And whether that music is corny or not is probably related to whether that influencing is corny or not. And so, you know, because there is absolutely like corny crypto rap. Like there are people who have like really rapping about, you know, their Bitcoin. Right. That's a real thing. I'm saying it's a real subgenre, and it is as bad as you might imagine, but I imagine.
But you went and checked it out, though.
Oh yeah, I did. I have to. It's my job. So yeah, no, I'm listening.
See what they're talking about.
Like this, like these people are really, they're really rapping about their imaginary coins. Yeah. But like, if things shift with the currency in this country or in the world, then more people are going to, because one of those crypto rappers got a feature from Ghostface. I mean, he just paid money for it, probably. I mean, he might have paid him in crypto, but yeah, there's always that space to for things to change, because our discourse is not being funneled. You know, if you can imagine record companies giving you entertainment that people believe, again, like the business is also the culture and the culture is the business, and then all of it coming out through a straw. And now like the mechanism is not the opening of a straw anymore. It's kind of like a water hose or a shower head, where there are so many different lanes that people can be in, that folks can find an audience and not have to pretend, where you can just like, you can rap about your relationship to, you know, like your community and your, you know, like your God. And there's not somebody saying you got to make it sound like a top 10 song, or you got to make it, you don't have that, you know, these people, because I can imagine that a whole lot of corny music is a product of corny A&R people who are trying to make a hit.
Yeah. Now to that point, your latest book is called Being Dope.
Being Dope.
And at one point, like we own the streets, and then it was sort of like the commercial music owned by the record companies.
Yeah.
Like, so we would do the mixtapes on the street. And in this area is a hip hop and 30 through mixtape memoir. Right. And it's like, but now, like you just said, there's so many avenues to where you got people being popular without a record deal.
Yeah.
So why don't we own it? Because one of the things I hear was that we get so much degrading music, about like how we treat our women and about how women got to dress to be popular. Like they say, it's because we're doing it for the money.
Yeah.
But isn't that like sort of a catch-22? Isn't there some sort of like conflict? Because it's like we own the streams now. Like we own we own our own platforms. You don't need a record deal anymore. But so how do we get the control?
So I think that so control and ownership are probably different. Even though like they sound like the same thing. And what I mean is that like capitalism is also adaptable. Remember, like there was a point in time when record companies were going after streamers until they found a way to monetize that. And so I think that there's always going to be a way that people are going to like to monetize a version of entertainment where people are being exploited. And because of that, this, I think about this with AI and digital blackface. Like, you had this rapper that got signed that was like, if you make an AI rapper, he ain't got to be black.
Right.
He ain't even got to be human. Like, and maybe isn't human, right? So what is it that you're playing on whenever you do that? And so they're trying to cash in on a past version of our understanding of embodiment and what a rapper means. So they could bypass. So if I, as a rapper, decide that I don't want to do that as a rapper, somebody's like, well, I could just program it. I could just make that. So we're like, I'm saying that it's adaptable in such a way that we are moving toward people trying to get rid of people in the equation anyhow. And so as we are getting control and we are controlling the narratives and we are setting the record straight, we have to also understand that this fight, it's not a fight on one front. To, like when I'm talking about, when I hear hip hop criticism or hip hop journalism, or, get a question from somebody asking me about hip hop, a lot of times I'm like, who sent you? Like, what are your credentials? I will tell y'all one of these times about a journalist who reached out to me and thought that he, like, literally, it felt like he thought he discovered breakdancing.
Wow.
And I'm like, he's like, yeah, like these like rappers are dancing now. And I'm like, what do you mean rappers are dancing now? That happened.
Where do you live?
And this was like a hip hop related publication. And I'm like, where did they get him?
Yeah.
Where did they get that person? And so like part of my work is to say that, we like part of this is narrative. Like we have to engage in saying, if this is a cultural inheritance, the dude who believes that he discovered breakdancing in the 2020s is not the person who can be the executor here.
Right.
He cannot tell us what things are worth what. He absolutely can't. But there are a whole lot of other people we're listening to that should also not have that kind of responsibility.
Yeah,
and so it's up to us. And the way that we elect those people, I mean, is through our attention. When you give them attention, when you click, when you engage, you are sanctioning or at least giving them the ability to say, people get down with whatever I say. And so we have to, we have to be scrutinizing listeners. We have to be judicious with our time and attention. And then we need to put that time and attention where we actually believe that it should be. And I think that if we do that, then we'd be a whole lot better off. Now, I'm not saying that that's like a cure-all, but I think it's a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
I have one more thing for you to comment on, and then we got to get out of here. Just one more thing, and then we got to go. I'm about to bring this thing full circle.
It's always good.
About to bring it full circle. So the first album, I guess, or the first album that we discussed today and the book that we discussed, you talked about referencing a common line, and that people began to kind of view hip hop as a female, which is something that you weren't exactly aiming for, right? But you didn't necessarily want them to view it as, you didn't want them to romanticize it, and you didn't want them to view hip hop as a male either. Do I got that correct?
Yeah.
So the point that I'm trying to get to is, what's the problem with viewing hip hop as a female?
Well, I think that, because we live in a patriarchal society, and there's already so much violence that happens to women. And so, like, like that song by Common, like, spawns all of these, like, these diss records between him and Ice Cube, where now they're talking about hip hop as this B word that they're fighting over. Right. And you can see how very easily we can just get into these problematic engagements with women and womanhood, and believing that, like, hip hop has the power to, like, sort of fix it gender wise, but then also do violence to it. And so I think that my concern is really the violence in the metaphor, and it's not unrelated to the actual violence that this country does to women regularly. And that symbolic violence almost always has real world manifestations. And so, so you hear it, like, when people, like, just carelessly, I mean, even Kanye made a song called Wendy that was about Chicago. And it's like, no, it's clever. All of that is cool. But, like, we have to mind our metaphors. In the same way that there are people who are like, I don't want to use no more war metaphors or no more violent metaphors, because they're just trying to, like, bring more, like, positive energy into their in their conversation. I think that words absolutely have a whole lot to do with how we are in the world. Like, that is like, words are the vehicle through which we express all of the stuff that, like, is otherwise unexpressible. And so I believe that we should be very careful when we choose our metaphors, so that somebody hearing them might not think we don't care about women.
That makes perfect sense. I understand that. It's just, and I wasn't looking at it from that direction. I'm just thinking about the Black female and all of her glory down through history. And so why couldn't, the analogy of a female be compared to that of hip hop?
I would love to be, I would love to be in a world where,
same way people refer to maybe a nice car, as her.
Yes, but I think that there's and so the way that I describe it in the book is, like, there's just a way that it can easily devolve into casual misogyny. Now, but like, that appreciation thing, like that, like, no, I'm absolutely. I'm absolutely all for it. I wish that we lived in a world where, when people deploy metaphors, the place that people automatically go to is the most respectful place.
So in other words, hip hop needs to be gender neutral.
No. Well, I'm saying that I was responding to that one song where, like, that metaphor was deployed, and that was just like a generative space. But no, like, I'm not saying gender. I'm not talking about gender neutrality. Nah. No, but I just think, like, mine in the metaphor, and I think that there's a way. I really do think there's a way to interrogate that, like, that language is caught up to now, that maybe language couldn't do in the early 90s. And so if we do it, like, let's update it so that it's more inclusive, so that it's more representative of the kinds of ways that we know these things can casually devolve.
Good stuff. Dr. Carson, thank you as always, good sir.
I appreciate the questions.
Yes, sir. And you're always welcome here, man. IMHO Talk Show loves a good conversation.
All right.
Yes, indeed, man. And especially when it's to deal with our culture and our people. So y'all make sure y'all check them out. You guys a lot of good product right there out right now for you, fresh. Whether it's on your on where you get your music from or where you get your literature from. Look up AD Carson book, Being Dope. And also his latest music offering called For Immediate Release.
Also,
EP.
That album. The performance with the Charlottesville Symphony, there's a recording of that online as well, so you can download that as an album. Nice. So it's on all the streaming platforms.
Good stuff. All right, Professor Carson, until next time, man, take care.
I appreciate y'all. Thanks.